Hi everybody, this is Shane. If you've got one of these PowerScrub 50s or a similar carpet cleaner from Hoover, a lot of them look alike, and I suspect they probably work internally the same. If you've got one of these that's leaking out the bottom like a sieve, watch on. I'm describing what I ran into here and what I found. I thought I knew the problem initially. That wasn't it, but now I've gotten to the bottom of it. So watch on, and I'll show you what the issue turned out to be and how to fix it. Okay, so back to this this PowerScrub 50, this Hoover carpet cleaner. I found out why it's leaking, and it was pretty simple. There's the cover, and there's about 10 screws on the bottom underneath here. I'll show you when I go to put it back together, but there's 10 screws that hold it on. You got to pry it loose from the front, and then once you lay the handle back and you can pry up, it kind of pops right off. It's a bit tricky, but not too bad. The problem is this piece right here, whatever this is called, this piece, it sits down inside here. It's obvious. It's got one screw that holds it in. You might see that hole down there, right there. It's got one screw that holds it in with that one tab with the hole in it right there, and that hose connects right here. Sorry, right here. Anyways, this whole thing fits in here kind of like this. The hose attaches right there. But anyways, the problem is here, let me lay this down so I can move my hands around. This part, as you can see, one of the screws, the part where it screws in, it doesn't screw in very deep, obviously, but it broke off. See, see how it just spins there? So that cracked loose. There was an opening here, and water was just pouring out of the bottom of this thing and running out onto the floor. And this piece sits over the side here, sits over the side like this, and there's a rubber seal in here that seats against that lip in there. And so with this loose, water was just pouring out down the hose, whether the trigger was depressed or not. So I'm just gonna JB weld this little piece back in place, then I'm gonna screw it back together, and then I'm gonna rough up the edges of this plastic here, and probably on the face a little bit right here, and then just JB weld the whole thing all the way around on back together. So that's why it's leaking. It was just water was just pouring out the bottom, running right down here onto the floor. And I thought originally that it was this piece here, and this is a piece that sits right there where the hoses attach. And all this thing does is water's supposed to run all the way down when you even when you don't depress the trigger. Water runs all the way down to this device. But when you push the trigger, this is just a little diaphragm that lets air in, and that's what allows water to flow out of this device through the smaller hole, down for vacuuming and cleaning. So anyways, this part I thought was the problem is not. So I'm gonna JB weld this, and I'll show you how to put it back in and how to get that cover back on, and you'll be good to go if that's what your issue is. But I suspect as poorly as this part is attached here, that's probably a pretty common problem. But anyways, that's what my issue is. Okay, so I've got this this round top cap piece. I've got it JB welded on here now, and I just roughed the top edges of this whole round device here. Just roughed up the edges underneath on this part, and set it on there, screwed it back down, and then I put some extra JB weld around the edges just so the whole thing stays on and doesn't want to break loose again. The plastic that this thing's made out of is kind of cheesy. It's hard and brittle and seems to be the weakest link of this whole thing. But anyways, I'm going to put it back in just a second and I'll show you where it goes, but I wanted to show you this part right here. This triangular opening here, as this sits down in here like this, there's a, hopefully you can see this, there's a triangular opening right there. That's where water runs down into some kind of a reservoir there. And then here's the hose that goes all the way back up to the trigger. And when you depress the trigger, that lets air escape from this hole, and it must vent this reservoir on the from the very bottom underneath here. And that's what allows water to flow down to the scrubbing heads and whatnot. So I'll have it back in a second, and I'll put the cap on it, and it should be good to go. Just a quick FYI, I ended up using some gutter sealant I had, or you can use silicone, whatever. But I went ahead and sealed this whole thing all the way around, because this piece here, when it's screwed onto these posts, this piece is still, there's a little bit of a lip there, but it's not tight against, that doesn't seal against this piece here. So in the event that this rubber seal inside here fails, I just went ahead and sealed the whole thing up, and I had to use a toothpick and just kind of wedge it in all the way around here, or just not wedge it in, but just fill this around all the way around. But right here where the hoses are, it's a little bit tricky. You got to kind of get a small tool and kind of work it in there. But anyways, I don't want this thing to fail or leak once I get it back in. I don't want to mess with it again. So anyways, if you have this problem, you'll see what I'm talking about, and you'll do whatever you need to do. But just an FYI. Okay, now you see I've got it back in there. There's that tab and that screw I was talking about earlier. I just wanted to mention one thing. There's a little post right there. It's kind of fragile, but it just sets in that black square box. You kind of have to watch that a little bit. But anyway, so I put the water tank back on. You got water in there, and I had it up, and water ran down, and it filled about half this hose here, up to about, I don't know, up here. But anyways, it's not leaking. There's no water underneath here. Now I suspect if I pull the trigger, some water should come out, I would think. Yeah. Yeah, see, that starts feeding water out to the head. So I think I got it licked, and I'm just going to put the cover back on real quick. I'll show you the screws on the bottom. As you can see real quick, this cover just kind of pulls off. You just got to set it back down on there, and then we'll flip it up and put the 10 screws back in, and we'll be pretty much done. Okay, just showing you actually it's 8 screws on the bottom. There's one in the front here, there's 2 on that side, 2 on that side. There's one right there in the back, one over here in the back. There's one right down in that hole right there, way down in there. And there's one right down there. And then on the front, I forgot there's 2. There's one here and one here on the top. So if you can use a screwdriver, you can fix this thing. There she is, all put back together. That took all of about 6 or 7 minutes. And I got the water tank on. I've got it set, the water set to rinse, turned on. And before, if it was just sitting there like that, it'd be leaking water all over the place. But there's no water. That's just water back there from when I was testing before, but there's no water coming out, and I think she's good to go. I would recommend that maybe when you finish with this thing, with a session of it, is just take the water tank off and then depress the trigger someplace where you can let what water's in those tubes, let it drain out, because otherwise that water's going to sit in there for weeks or months till you use it again. So when you're done, take the water tank off, put it on a surface that you don't mind getting wet or whatever, and put it on a towel, press the trigger, and let the water, what water's in the system, drain out, and it should dry out quickly. So anyways, that's a wrap on that. Hope it helps you out, and good luck. Hey, this is Shane. I just wanted to mention a couple things. This machine, by the way, does work really well. It'll take out stains. It pick up dog messes. Works really well, and it seems to be really well built, except for that one part I was showing you that I ended up patching up. But you know, we bought it and we loved it until it started leaking water. But now that I think I've got it fixed, we're looking forward to using it again. So, anyways, again, it's a Hoover Spin Scrub 1 or Spin Scrub 50. Good luck. Take care.